Maybe. Okay, there we go. There's Craig. And podcast ping. And we're ready. Oh gosh. It's so much to cover. But episode 11, a whole 2 weeks ago. That was, oh gosh. That was an episode and a half though. I mean, because we were hot off the press with all of the drama that surrounded with Archer, which inevitably I think led to his quitting, which
Yes.
sucked, but also I definitely agree with him. It was the right move. Mental health wise for him, I could tell like this game was just it wasn't for him. And it was going in like a downward trajectory. So it sucked that like the twist couldn't fully work out how we wanted to with the eliminated person choosing someone to exile and then them going right back into tribal. Though we kind of, because didn't Archer still exile Malik that tribal?
No, Malik got randomized.
Oh, Malik got randomized, which honestly saved his ass because I remember Malik was going home next.
Yeah, Malik
But
is gonna go home if Archer. Oh, why is Shoddy here? Shoddy should not be here.
and
Hang
bye,
on.
Shoddy. Disconnect. What are the channel terms? Why can jury?
I just said
I'm
it so Jury
yeah.
can't see it.
Jeez, whack.
Oh, it's because it's everyone can view it.
Oh,
Okay, but I just said it so Jury can't.
yeah. Okay.
Shoddy was like, "Let me see what
Oh,
shit they're talking."
please.
That was so funny.
Well, I mean, Shoddy is gonna get mentioned in this because Pondy's been kind of
Oh,
almost more
don't
talked
even get me
about than
started.
we'll get to Pondy after the episodes. But so we have Archer quit, Malik gets saved by random chance, and we get to
Ooh,
see Villainvivor's first ever rocks, which
yes.
I'm so surprised everyone was just like, yeah, no, let's fucking do it. Let's go to rocks.
I'm
Because it
not
was
surprised. This is an emotional ass fucking cast.
true. Who even was on the chopping block? Wasn't it Average?
And
Let me
Huntress.
check. Average and Huntress?
Mm-hmm.
Which still makes no sense because I think it was Average who made a comment during that tribal of how her and Average were literally just scapegoats for everyone else. They were an easy, like, emotionless boot for the side to
Oh well,
make.
Huntress was only voted as a test of trust from J-Ro. Like J-Ro was trying to test Rose in court to see if they would vote with him.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only reason he voted Huntress. He didn't actually want to see her go home.
And honestly, it worked out for J-Ro, and then didn't. And then it really didn't.
Well, and
But
then it kind of did because LaFleur went home.
yeah, but then J-Ro followed suit right after.
Well, yeah.
But LaFleur rocking out completely changed this season. Because I think we would have seen almost more power on Rose and Court. Because I think we would still see LaFleur in the game right now.
Yeah,
And we would see a strong top three of LaFleur, Court, and Rose. And then honestly, I would see Rose just tapping out at final three and being like, yeah, no, Court, LaFleur, go at it. I don't. Because she already said, like, earlier in the season, she was going to give her game for LaFleur.
yeah, she did say that.
And him going kind of lit that fire in her, like, under her ass. And she's definitely been playing a really good game since. I think this tribal is her first, like, hindrance since having Court go really, like, shoots her game down.
Well, I know we're jumping around a little bit, but
Yeah.
she did mention in her confessionals at one point that it was always her plan to have Court go. Even though
Mm-hmm.
Court always wanted to take Rose to the end, Rose never wanted to take Court to the end. So while Rose said that she would never write Court's name down, she always had it in her plans to let someone else vote Rose out. So I wonder if or to let someone vote Court out. So I wonder if this round, if Rose knew that Court was the vote, and she just, didn't vote against her.
Mhm.
She knew
And
that
I'm wondering if she's feigning the same, like, frustration that Court has of being ghosted then. Because, honestly, my biggest complaint with this cast is we just don't get anything in confessionals, really, that indicates fully what's going on. Because alliance chats are all but dead at
no.
this point in the game. And then confessionals, it's just it's been a slow decline in what people give in confessionals.
I know, which was already not much to start with.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Because at least Rose is giving us all of these screenshots of DMs, but some people are just giving confessional answers and that's it. And I'm like, what's going on? I'm so lost. But LaFleur's rock off. Trying to think what else there was to it. Because I mean it was pivotal, but also it didn't really it wasn't like a huge dramatic tribal, at least from what I remember. Everyone was like, yeah, no, just fuck it, go to rocks. And then J Rose vote off was a long time coming, in my opinion. That was
Oh,
definitely something that was on its way. Because there was a moment pre-merge where we were all thinking like, oh shit, yeah, J Rose going next if they lose. And then somehow this over-the-top player just makes his way to what, 9th? 8th. Which is just honestly, it's really interesting because he still doesn't have like a perspective on just what kind of game he played and the effect he had on the game. I don't think he really thinks he was this super negative over the top player still.
well, what's really fascinating is he actually held a decent amount of power over his alliance.
Hmm.
He called the shots. He fully did.
Yeah. And
Um,
I think almost though, I think some people just let that happen because they knew J-Ro was a pretty over the top player on his tribe and rubbed people the wrong way. So having him call all of these shots, he was a really good shield to keep around because no one wanted to take him to the end.
oh yeah, absolutely.
Even though I think if people let him stay, I don't know, with the kind of jury we have, I don't think he would have won. I think he
Oh
would have lost. He would have Russell hands and
yes,
just
I
lost.
agree. I think that his jury management was just too bad. Because now we've seen in Ponderosa, believe it or not, we've seen J-Ro calm down.
Hmm.
But in the game, he was very OTT, always picking a fight with mostly Court, but really with anyone who would fight with him. Like he was just being this dramatic character. And so people just did not respect him whatsoever.
Yeah.
And that just does not go well with a jury like the one we have.
And also, this tribal would be what I call the beginning of a winner arc for Sun, because I'm pretty confident at this point Sun's going to win the season. Everyone seems to like Sun, and they want to take him to at least Final 3. And he's shown he's pretty good at competitions and he can win stuff. So I think Rose is definitely going to lean on Sun this round to keep her. And I could see Sun, if he's smart, going to Fire, taking Rose to Fire against Boof or Average, whoever they decide to vote, because then it guarantees Sun Final 2 no matter what, and a win no matter what, because everyone kind of thinks Rose is a follower in Ponty, and no one really likes Boofus because he's a ghoster and he just doesn't talk to people that well. And then average has had a very negative connotation pretty much this whole season about how they're playing.
Not you just admitting that it's going to be a final two.
Oops.
Um,
Well, I think Omega already gave that away in comp questions.
oh, did he?
Yeah, final six, it was you're one episode away from the finale. But
Yeah,
anyways,
because final five is always the finale.
no, final six is the finale when it's final three.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Oh well. But at J Rose vote off, it's a tie vote again. Almost leads to Rocks, but Sun is the one who flips, and
Oh, well, let me tell you
it's
about
J.
what happens there. They fucking, Court and J-Ro had a fucking standoff for 8, almost 9 hours that I had to sit in that fucking VC.
Yeah, I miss the VC. I saw them in there for hours upon hours.
Because neither of them would leave because they didn't want, because it was Sun and Malik sitting in there, and those two were the flip votes. Both of them said, I might flip my vote. And they were both on opposite ends. So both people, J-Ro and Court, wanted to talk to them, but neither of them would talk game in front of the other person. So yeah, they just like squared off the entire night, and it was so awkward. And then finally, J-Ro was like, okay, Court, like I know you have to like go to work early in the morning. So listen, I'm gonna leave, and if I leave, like you leave, and then we both just let them talk and we both just like go to bed. And she was like, okay, fine. But so he left and she didn't leave. And she started talking game. So J-Ro comes back and he's like, why are you doing this? Like he went I was on his side because I did think it was like fucked up that she did that. But like he did go a little crazy and he was like, do you even have to work in the morning? And I was like, bro, like come on. But he was like, I literally, like, this is the same thing that you were asking me not to do to you, and you're doing it to me. Like, this is ridiculous. It was so funny how I'm sorry, I think J-Ro is hilarious. Some people think he's a little toxic. I don't think he's toxic. I think I've never, okay, I have seen him like personally attack a few times, but if you call him out and say like, hey, you're doing this, I think he just doesn't realize that he does it. But once you bring it to his attention, he understands and he regrets it. And he tries to be better. But anyway, he like yeah, he's so funny because he was like, I tried to be a nice person. I tried to be a nice person and so we could both go to sleep. But now I guess we're just gonna have to have an endurance challenge and sit here all night long. And it was just so funny. And it shouldn't have been that funny, but that shit was so fucking hilarious to me.
No, I think J-Ro is just a very not absorbed, but almost self-absorbed kind of person
Oh, he always
where,
thinks that he's playing a better game than what he is.
yes.
He
And
reminds me of myself in that sense.
his stream of consciousness always involves him,
Yeah.
which is interesting. I don't think he's toxic, definitely compared to some of the other people on this
Sean.
season and on this jury that we've seen. But J-Ro, I think that's where he lost it, was that VC. I remember reading the confessionals and everything from Court, and she was like, I can't leave this, or I will go home. And she was like, I just want to sleep. So I think both of them they were fighting so hard to stay. And now it's just like, and for what? Because they're both out now.
I know. Okay, let me tell a little story of, so I've said it before that J-Ro reminds me of me as a player because we're both like very OTTN, and like I will do whenever it comes down to merge, like I will do whatever it takes. And I'm a little bit more chaotic than him. Like he won't go into tribe chat and be like, like for instance, I'll like if I know someone's voting me or like throwing out my name, I'll go to them and be like, OMG, so who are we voting? Gabriel? Like I'm messy like that. But so what this reminded me of is once I was in a tie vote. It was me and someone else at F7. And there was one person who was the determining vote, and he was not on my side. But I thought, I was like, I have to. So I stayed up all night. This is awful. Never do this. But I stayed up all night long. Me and my ally, my number one, we both stayed up all night long so we could corner him in a VC because we knew that he woke up at 6 a.m. EST every morning. So we waited until he woke up, and then we like spam pinged him in tribal chat, and we're like, we have to
It's
talk to you.
amazing.
We have to talk to you. And we got in VC, and I literally mouth vomited, like diarrhea of the mouth, just started listing all these reasons, like how I'm loyal, like how I was not a trio, how I didn't want to play by tribal lines, all these things that were a lie. Not only that, but I copied and pasted messages from the other person who was in the tie to show that he wasn't loyal, but I changed them to I faked them to make it look like he had said like that he was talking shit about the guy who I needed to vote with me. And it worked so well. I was so good at emotionally manipulating these people that that I'm not proud. Well, I didn't do anything wrong. I was just playing the game, and this other guy was just like way too invested. He was like, "You're right. Like, please just vote me out. I deserve to be castrated. Like, I'm a terrible person. Like keep Gabriel in the game." And I was like, "That's intense. Like, please don't say that." But I don't know why. That just reminded me of whenever I like went that hard. Like because I can see J Ro literally doing everything that I did, like faking the messages, staying up all night, spam pinging to get people into a VC. I can see him doing it all.
And I think it's so funny. I fully saw myself in court in that situation, especially after you mentioned the whole like work thing. Because right now in the org I'm in, I just got accused of like faking my busy schedule because everyone thinks I'm this like huge snake player that's super active socially, and I'm not. I like it's Final Five. I haven't tried really much at all until like the past round or two. And someone was like, "Oh yeah, but it's fine because you have choir." And I'm like, "Well, fuck yeah, I do. I have like 10 hours of classes. What do you mean?" And there was this whole standoff during a tie because it was a three-way tie at final six. It was 2-2-2. And this
Ooh.
guy came at me and I was like, I have done nothing this game. Don't try it. So there was like a 2.5 hour typing fight between us two. No one else was interacting. It was just going around in circles and circles and circles. And he just kept like changing every angle at me. And I kind of feel like that's what Court had to go through after that. Just
Damn.
like the circle throw of J-Ro to Court. Just like, okay, this. I hate you. Go home. And then J-Ro went out.
It's so true. Like that's what J Ro would do. Like she would answer a question and then he'd ask the question again in a different way to try to get a different answer to like trip her up. Like,
Hmm.
I mean, the kid is good at at manipulation. I'll give him that. He's good at trying to manipulate people.
The best thing is, isn't J-Ro like 21?
He is, yeah.
I love that. My favorite moment of the season so far is, oh shit, I confused J-Ro with Boofus for a while. I think that was Huntress.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Thinking J-Ro was a high schooler.
yeah. That was funny. Um, but yeah, J Ro ended up going home because, which honestly was the better move for Sun, I think,
Yeah.
because now Sun has something that he can claim on his resume.
And as I said, it's the beginning of like a really good trajectory for Sun. And then going into Final 7, Huntress steps down and steps out because of some IRL issues. I forget who was being targeted that round.
Malik, I believe. Or was Malik? Or was Malik?
Let's see.
Uh,
So
he
before
was.
Huntress, it was Bufus who had a vote. So I think it was Bufus versus Malik,
Mm,
which would have been really interesting because Bufus has kind of been this player that everyone's like iffy on trusting, but they need the number in this late game. So he's kind of coasted on through, and now I think it's finally starting to catch up with him. And it's to the point where I don't think Bufus can win the season, but also I don't know if Bufus will make it to the end, anyways.
you know what's interesting about Bufus? Bufus was a winner contender for most of the season. Like he was
Yeah,
one of the top winner contenders. He was playing a really, really good game until J-Ro exposed him.
yeah,
For some reason, J-Ro felt very hurt and betrayed by Bufus, which I don't understand why, because J-Ro is the one who made a Final 3 deal with everyone else, and Bufus was literally supposed to be his number one, but I digress. But yeah, J-Ro exposed the fuck out of Bufus and how he was playing both sides. Excuse the background noise.
okay.
And that completely fucked Bufus over. And he
Hmm.
hasn't been able to recover from that shit.
No, and it definitely shows in Court's exit interview, where Court gives pretty much everyone positive or neutral, and then Bufus gets Snake.
Yeah.
Played me and many others. So I really think Bufus, it's just a slow spiral. He's trying his best to do what's best for his game. And he's really come into his own because this is his first org, and he's really proven himself to be a good player if he
Yeah.
puts his mind to it. And J-Ro kind of all just like fucked it up for him. And then
There seems to be
with
a common denominator to shit going wrong in this season.
yeah, but I think this was yet another perfect outcome for Sun. Because Huntress was going to end up being a number for Court and Rose,
Yeah.
at least from my perspective. And having that block of three going into Final Six would have been deadly. And Malik was super close with Sun. Because like Malik in his exit interview was like saying, I love Sun, which is already like a good thing if Sun makes it to the end, because that's pretty much a vote that I could see going to Sun. And
Well, sorry. Go ahead.
um Sun also didn't have to draw a line because that would have been a line for Sun to draw that tribal, voting out Malik or Bufus. So Huntress stepping down, he didn't have to make a line just yet. He still had everyone's trust.
I just want to point out with Malik, Malik and Sun were not close
No.
until that VC standoff with Court and J-Ro. They got very close. They solidified a final 2 deal actually in that VC.
Hmm.
Um,
Which
yeah.
I love that kind of stuff when the final, like the end game, is mobile still. It's still fluid. Because there's been seasons that I've watched all across orgs where once you get to like final eight, everything's solidified. Nothing changes. And it's just power struggle. No one flips. No one does anything. And it's just annoying. So having Sun and Malik kind of create that bond. And then there's other things that have been going on where this ending has been pretty fluid. Like Average should have been out like 9 tribals ago at this point, but Average is still sticking around.
Oh, on that note, touchy subjects happened at one of these. And
I think that was Huntress's.
okay, yeah. Average got voted most likely to win the game. But from an outsider's perspective, Average is the biggest goat.
Hmm. Yeah, it, that it's really interesting because I don't think Average gets a single vote if they make it to the end.
I agree. I
Which
think Average is in an F3 especially, Average would be a no vote finalist. But since the cat is out of the bag and we know it's an F2,
yeah.
um, I still agree that that it would be a unanimous win for whoever is against average.
And it's going to be interesting if Sun ends up choosing to vote off Rose and it's average Boofus Sun. I think Sun's at the highest contention of winning, but honestly, I would love to see a Boofus average final two because I don't know. Because there's a lot of people that are really mad at Boofus at this point,
Yeah,
but no one likes average's game. So it would be a fight to win at that point.
that would be interesting. And why do I get the feeling that they both tank FTC?
Oh, they would. They so would because average would go in almost with a defeatist attitude already, like, "Oh, I've already lost." And
Yeah,
then Boofus
would
doesn't know
be
how to do an FTC yet. And
right.
I feel like would just crack and just falter, and I think it would be a hot mess express, but super entertaining. I would I hope for it. I want Sun to win this season. Sun or Rose, they're kind of my two, like, wants to win. But I would kill to see the average Boofus final two.
Okay, the thing with Sun and Rose, in their confessionals, Sun has said that his ideal F2 is with Rose, and Rose has said that her ideal F2 is with Sun. So I think they're
Yeah,
each other.
I would love to see it.
But in that case,
My
I think Rose wins.
I think Rose could outtalk Sun for
Like,
sure.
yeah.
Rose showed in her confessional. It surprised me. She hasn't played many orgs, but in her 5 orgs, she's won 2 of them and got second and a third. So she's a phenomenal player. And she's obviously extremely well spoken. I think she would destroy FTC.
I agree. And Sun has only won one org, and it wasn't a Survivor org.
Mhm. I Those are the 2 FTCs I would like to see because I know Sun performance in FTCs because I went up against Sun in another org recently, and he's good, and he puts up a good fight, and he's really well worded. So that would be like the battle of the century of 2 really solid FTCs, and then you have Average and Boofus would be the tank FTCs.
Hmm.
But it all comes down to this because if Rose wins this, I think we're going to see a Rose v Sun final two. If anyone else wins it, it's going to be. I think Rose goes out unless Sun decides to protect and go to fire and have Rose go to fire.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, I can see that. And but the thing is, I think Sun would go to fire or would
Oh
let Rose
yeah,
go to fire.
I
They
I would.
he'd probably put her up against Boofus.
Yeah, I think that would be the safest bet because average is like a sneaky comp threat because I don't think any of the final 4 are quote unquote comp beasts. They're all pretty middle of the road and they all have like strengths and weaknesses. Boofus, I think, though, has the most weaknesses.
Yeah. Mainly because he just hasn't played an orc before, so he doesn't like.
Hmm. He doesn't know what to expect and what is going to come at him.
Right.
Okay, Malik's vote off. This was a clean cut one. I think. I think there was no tie.
No, there wasn't a tie.
No. And it was Malik and who else voted with Malik? I'm trying to
Average.
remember. Average, which is interesting. That's not something because Malik and Average's relationship slowly shifted from they trusted each other a lot on Original Tribe, and then Average Leakageddon happened, and
Yeah.
Malik was one of the first people to be like, "Yeah, no, I want Average out. I do not trust this person." And then over the course of Merge, they got back together to the point where they were like, "Yeah, I want to work with them. They're great." Malik's like, end merge, honestly, was really strong. It just sucked that there was too many people that didn't want him in the game anymore. Because him and Sun got close, him and Average got close again, and it was just like he had the possibility, but Sun decided, no, Malik's gotta go. Which again, right decision for Sun in the moment because Malik beats anyone at FTC, I would say.
Yeah, I agree. Which is interesting because Malik was not playing a good game pre-merge.
No. Malik was playing a very safe game that was very quiet, didn't do anything, let other people do the talking and do the moves.
Exactly. It would sorry. It wasn't a game that was respected at all.
Hmm.
Um
And then our most recent episode. Uh this is just the further downfall of Boofus. Because he ghosted not one but two people this tribal,
yeah.
and he lost Court's vote 1000%, and then Rose knows not to trust Boofus, and I think that's also going to be the catalyst of Rose voting Boofus unless Boofus wins this challenge.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It,
Well,
I think,
they've all won a immunity except for no, they've all won an immunity. Every single one of
interesting.
them.
This is going to be a really interesting challenge then, because this is a tough challenge. This is a pretty taxing
Has it been
challenge.
released yet?
Yeah, I think. Has it? Yes, it has.
Okay, yeah.
So it's a jigsaw puzzle, a number puzzle, I believe, uh, some kind of endurance puzzle, and then my least favorite, a word puzzle. I can't do words.
It's a drop quote. Let's go.
I think it's gonna be a close one, I hope. Because last last immunity was not close. Sun kind of blew everyone out of the water.
Yeah.
And it was really unfortunate that everyone kind of talked about their scores when it's a rule not to, which was disappointing. So everyone knew the result before it was even revealed.
That did suck. It's kind of like common sense, but
Mm-hmm.
apparently nothing is common sense in orgs. So
Guess not. But with Court's vote off, I think it's further cementing Sun as like a huge contender. And honestly, it was a good move for Rose as well. Even though she voted incorrectly, I think finally getting rid of Court is it frees her up a little more, though also now she's got two people against her going into Final Four, which is enough to tie it and put her in fire. So I don't know Rose's chances, though I think Sun is sitting the best contender wise. I would say Rose is right under
oh,
him.
you know what? You know what I forgot to tell you?
What?
Um, since whatever, this tribal is forced fire.
Oh. Ooh.
Yeah.
So is it the winner forces two people into fire?
Yeah,
Or
the winner chooses someone to take to F3 with them.
so
Oh, so if
then
Sun wins, then he can bring Rose.
yeah.
Yeah. So there's a chance
I
for her.
I hope to see Sun win then. Because then Sun can set himself up perfectly for a guaranteed F2 and a pretty good chance at winning. Because if he takes Rose, that's one person who'll take him to F2. Guaranteed. And then the other person, I don't think they would be stupid enough to take Rose, who's clearly going to win,
Mhm.
at least from their perspective, because now she's got a friend on the jury fighting for her. And there's some other people who know her game and know that she's played a very solid game throughout the season. There's been points where she wasn't really trying, but she's been a contender for most of the season.
Right, right, right.
And I think people have that. I think people know that in the back of their head now. But we'll see how this all plays out. The forced fire is going to be it's going to be a twist because it's either Sun and Rose go to fire because I think Boofus and Average would take each other. Though I know Boofus would take Average because Average was number 1 on Boofus's trust rankings. Average is a bit of a wild card because I think Average wants to take Boofus or Sun, and I don't know if Average is concrete in who they want to take just yet. Well, it was Boofus number 1. And with Boofus voting out Court, I think Average will take Boofus.
Yeah, I think so too.
Wait, actually, no. Average said in confessionals, I want to try and make a move on either Sun or Boofus next round.
Oh,
So, Average might take Rose. That would be so interesting. Average taking Rose.
Average has to know that they lose against Rose. I mean, Average loses against anyone, but
Yeah. Though I think Average has a feeling of if it's final 2, Rose clearly gets taken out over them.
true, 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 true. But Average has to realize that they're getting taken to the end no matter what, right?
Yeah.
Although I guess unless it's Sun, because Sun wants to take Rose for whatever reason, which I really think is not a good move for him.
I don't think it is either.
I think that's gonna be another elk move, honestly.
Though in confessionals, Sun did say, where is it? Sun said, "Oh, not. If I wasn't taking Boof to the end before, I'm definitely taking him now. He's pissing the jury off one by one."
Oh, true.
So he might take Boofus. This is there's so many possibilities to come from this tribal. I'm excited to see it.
Especially with it being forced fire. I'm very curious to see how it's gonna end.
And Forced Fire has been in like the actual Survivor show. It's been a really interesting twist since it came out. It's kind of polarizing at the beginning, but it's commonplace now. And it's a huge part of the strategy because it makes it 10 times harder to take out a big threat late in the game.
Right.
But with it being final 2, there's a whole nother chance to take out that big threat.
Exactly. So I don't know how it's gonna end up, honestly.
Yeah. And now time for
Here's
the
our
worst part of the season.
our deep topic, toxic juries.
This Ponderosa, I have almost just muted it. I barely go in there to read it because it's just gotten really bad. I thought last season was bad. There was a lot of anger, but it wasn't to the point of toxicity. It was reasonable anger, mostly from people like Star, who's just like own up to your shit. And that was the biggest point of the jury. Though there was the fight between Omega and Dan that was the worst of it.
Right.
I would say that's the toxicity from season 3's. But this season, it's just been an ongoing onslaught of just fighting and borderline, if not toxicity, from players. It's stressful because we have Shadi, our first juror, and from this moment he got there was already kind of like seeds of bitterness planted. When he first got there, he was talking about how he wanted Court to go next and did not like Court, and there was someone else in that list. I
Rose.
forget who. Rose. Court and Rose. And ever since that, it's begun to snowball into this giant thing of just Court hate every round, preying on Court's downfall, thinking Court is this huge threat and wanting her out so bad. And then LaFleur comes in, and LaFleur is a pretty no shit kind of person, very blunt, straight to the fact, and just like instantly was like, yeah, no, I don't like this. And then J-Ro comes in, and J-Ro and Shoddy kind of bounce off each other. They fight a lot in Pondy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's gotten to the point where we're like, please, like, just block each other, take it to DMs, try to figure something out, because this is just toxic at this point. They clashed on a lot of views. And I don't think either of them realize why they're the cause of the fighting, because they're both the cause of the fighting at this point. Neither of them are like out clean of all of this fighting. And then you've seen Huntress come in and she saw everything going on and she was like, yeah, no, I'm not going to talk in here. No thanks.
Right.
Which, same. And then Malik, he's an icon because he's the only person that kind of is level headed but participates in these long conversations about players left in the game and the qualms with them. He never takes it to a point of anger, and he's pretty neutral on all of the players. Like, yeah, I gave them an out. They didn't take it. That was stupid. But also, I mean, they're still in the game. I'm not. Kind of attitude.
Right.
But it was recently where Jero and Shoddy got in another huge fight, but LaFleur was also an issue on kind of disrespecting hosts. And that's kind of where Pondy is getting bad, is there's a lot of like flippant disrespect for the hosts. And we're trying our best just to make this, we understand like anger and everything in Ponderosa. That's normal. You got voted out, and this was a game that inevitably has $100 at stake. But also, it's just a huge org that has a lot of emotional stakes to it as well.
Mm-hmm.
So we understand the angriness, but it's gotten to a point where it's not stopping. Super toxic. And no one listens to our hosts when we try to go in and be like, hey, simmer down. This we understand, but this is too much. And it's disheartening to see. And it's also just it's annoying.
Well, yeah, and then it's like, well, what's the solution? Do you just close Ponderosa so no one can talk there? Well, they have a right to like speak their mind, you know what I mean? And then like they yell censorship whenever we tell them to stop being mean to each other. But it's like, how is that censorship? Because we don't want you to hurt someone's feelings. I don't,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like this, we obviously have a very emotional cast, a very sensitive cast. So we know that they're probably going to look their name up after the season. And I am not okay with someone looking up their name and seeing you say like that they're stupid and annoying.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the rules that I have set for my game. If you don't want to follow them, don't be here. I like
Yeah.
I don't, is that harsh? Like I don't.
No. And I think this is just such a topic now because Court just got voted off, and Court's kind of been a center point of the almost hate train of Ponderosa. And it's sad to see Court just as soon as she got in there, she was like, I'm gonna mute jury. You guys or Ponderosa, you guys carry on. I don't want to like ruin the vibes. And it sucks that she has to go in there and be like, I can no longer participate in a game that I just played hard in because no one wants to talk to me, no one wants to engage with me.
Oh, I didn't even see that.
And Shadi had all of this to say about Court, but the second she gets voted off, he goes into this mindset of I don't want to talk to her. I don't need to talk to her.
I mean, I
It's
think
like,
that's better for everyone.
yeah, it's better for everyone, but it's just I don't know. This whole jury just leaves a bad taste in my mouth. It's
It makes me scared as fuck for Final Tribal. I'll
yeah,
say that. 'Cause
because
yeah, go ahead.
not everyone likes Rose, and Rose is going to get a lot of flack from the early boots of Merge.
Yeah.
And then you've got people like Average and Boofus who are just going to get ripped to shreds for their game.
Mhm.
And then Sun is also probably going to get handed a new one by these people because there's a lot of people at early game when he was still on the bottom. He didn't have any power early on, and everyone's going to still have that warped mindset of his game because that's the problem with this jury. They're not moving with the game. They're stuck in the mindset when they got voted off, and they're not receptive to when people new come in and being like, okay, this is how the game's changed from my perspective. They're not responsive to that. So everyone's still stuck in Shoddy's, I got voted off 11th. LaFleur's, I got voted off 9th, the game hasn't changed since then. Or J Rose, I got voted off 8th, the game hasn't changed since then. And I think that's the biggest problem with this jury.
Which, okay, I have to say, the jury has been complaining about J-Ro's little stream of consciousness thoughts on the game, but I think that that's part of being like part of the jury, like is discussing what's going on in the game. And yeah, it's a little like I'm not saying that he's annoying, but like his action of like centering the conversation around himself and his vote off can be a little like annoying. Um but I think that he's doing what a juror is supposed to be doing, and that's keeping up with the game.
Mm-hmm.
But this jury is just complaining about it and being like, why does like Huntress said, and I love Huntress, but she was like, J-Ro has a confessional. Can't he just use that? And I'm like, he's just being a juror. Like, this is what Ponderosa is for. I'm confused.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and J-Ro's stream of consciousness also kind of keeps conversations going. Of course, half the time they lead to either fights or toxic spews of stuff, but I have to be thankful that at least J-Ro is an active and trying at least his best to stay up with the game in a semi-positive or at least neutral mindset.
Mhm. And I'll give J-Ro credit where credit's due. In the beginning, he was fighting back with Shoddy. He was being part of the toxicity. But lately, whenever Shoddy is jumping on him and shit, J-Ro literally just ignores him and continues on with his little stream of consciousness. His little
Mhm.
J-Ro show. And like but while Shoddy is sitting there telling him to like shut up. And I'm like, I hate that because it's like don't tell him to shut up. Like he's not doing
Mhm.
anything wrong. Like he's just talking about the game. And then Shoddy's like, "Don't talk about me whenever you talk about the game." Well, you're part of the game.
Yeah, you had part of the game. You were part of this game. So what do you mean don't talk about me? It's like, come on, you're still because not J-Ro, Shoddy made a comment about how he's out of the game and now Court's out of the game, so there's no problem with Court. But you're still in the game because you're still an integral part of the game being part of the jury. So you're not fully out. You determine who wins the game. And how you played into the game has still affected the game. So you're still something to talk about.
Right. Right. I just it's so I hate seeing that Ponderosa channel light up. I hate it.
Yeah. And props to all of the hosts so far who have tried to like diffuse everything. It's I know like that's why I don't go in there because I've got a bit of a sharp tongue and I would probably cause problems with some of my ways of like shutting stuff down. And with this cast, I know it would definitely be like, oh, but you're trying to censor us, like, get out of here. And it's like, ugh, I don't know.
Well, what I hate is people have said, "Oh, well, I heard that Villainvivor was like this." Like what? like, like what? Like we protect like our players by making sure that they have
Yeah.
to read people talking shit about them. Like, I don't, like
Sorry, we're all org players who have been through the experience of going through after season, looking up our name and getting nothing but like toxic feedback from it.
right, like, and I've had people like say, "Well, it's your fault for looking up your name after the game." Like, well, I do that so I can learn how to be a better player. Like, I don't do it to get my feelings hurt. like,
Yeah. Do you think people who play actual Survivor watch the show? Fuck yeah, they do.
right, right, right.
So that's the exact equivalent is looking up your name and seeing how everyone else played around the game you were playing and how you fit into the grand scheme of the season.
That's a beautiful way to look at it. I just like, and I know that like we have a reputation for being a little bit more on the strict side, but like we do that for a reason, you know, like we do that to protect people.
Hmm.
And I'm not gonna say
And
sorry for that.
though I will say, as much as this season is kind of going down in infamy as our like quote unquote worst season,
Well, you
which
weren't here for
sucks.
season one. You weren't here for season one.
Yeah, it's definitely in contention with season one.
It is.
Season three and season two are far better,
Yes.
but this has given us a lot as hosts to look back on. Like our casting process is totally going to be different. We are going to be doing a lot more vetting and looking into players because I think our cast is the problem of this season. A lot of the cast just does not mesh with a lot of the cast. And there's been other issues on top of that with players being removed from the game because of issues.
Mhm.
And it's going to be a whole different ball game when we look into our next seasons, especially our next season. No spoilers on that, but casting is extremely important on our next season to make
More
sure
important
things
than
run
what.
smoothly and don't go into what this has become.
Although what I will say on that is oh, not the voice crack. Um, how do we know when how do we know if a player is gonna mesh with each other? You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like we have no real way of knowing that ahead of time.
Yeah, that's a shot in the dark kind of thing. Though I will say, if people have played other orgs, looking into that org and kind of asking hosts, like, how did they play? How did they get along with other people? Is going to become our thing, especially with the whole Ella situation.
Yeah.
Vetting from other people who have run orgs that this person is a reputable player is going to be a huge part going on.
Yeah.
But that's the game so far. Hopefully, I think next podcast episode is just going to be the season recap because I think we'll be done with FTC by no, we'll be in the middle of FTC next Friday, I think.
I
Because it's challenge now, tribal next episode, challenge after that, tribal, and then FTC is normally like a 3-day kind of thing, 2-day, 3-day. So we'll be at the tail end of the FTC next podcast.
yeah.
So
I think FTC and I think reunion will probably be next Thursday or next Friday.
yeah, which I might hold off the podcast until the season's done
Mhm.
and do kind of a end of season recap, and then we'll see if we can get the winner on as well to
Oh, that would
join
be
in
yeah.
and kind of interview them on their experience. And next time I'll actually record it so we have the winner interview.
Oh yeah. Poor
I'm still
Alex.
so sad that Alex's isn't because it was such a good interview.
You know, she
It
has
came
so
out so
many
well.
good things to say.
Uh,
But that's okay. We'll have it this
yeah,
time.
we'll have it. We'll slay it. It'll be a great podcast. But yeah, that's all I had prepared. Is there anything else that you have like thoughts on, Gabriel?
Not that I can think of. Is there anything from the audience that that the audience would like to bring up?
I know Uni earlier mentioned the idea of Average getting a few votes because they're more likable than Boofus, which I agree with. I think Average versus Boofus is it will be a fight in the funniest and worst way possible.
You think what?
An FTC between Boofus and Average would be a fight in the funniest and most like anticlimactic way possible.
Oh, I mean, I think Average wins in that scenario because Boofus just fights with the jury.
Hmm.
Boofus,
And Average tries to reason.
Boofus would
And
post that fucking picture of the dude with the mustache like a million times.
oh my god. That emote lives in infamy in my mind. It's so funny.
That shit is on the same level as Horse Plinko from Loops season 2.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, man. Though I will say, some of the players this season have great quality to come back if they would be willing to come back for a returnee season. Like, I think Boofus would be hella funny coming back a second time.
Oh, he said that this is his first and last org.
Yeah, which sucks. But I understand this is a really big start to take.
Yeah, this is a
So
huge org
props to
for
him
it.
for sticking through it all. But I definitely understand being like, yeah, that was an experience I do not want to try again.
Also, what a terrible season to have as your first season.
I know.
I wouldn't like orgs if this was my first season either.
And to think Boofus almost got cast on last season, which would have been
Oh,
totally different because Boofus isn't a social player. That's what we've learned.
Rufus would have been
Or
on
at least,
pre-merge last season.
yeah, Boofus would have flopped very quickly. But it's interesting. I don't think there was ever gonna be a good cast for Boofus to start on.
No, if
Or Boofus could have done well in season 2, like the big moves. I think
oh
Boofus would
yeah,
have been able to kind of fade into the background but still be a character.
he would have linked up with like Loops. I think.
Oh, that would have been a shit post of a duo.
Oh my god, I know. They literally would have been unstoppable. If we had cast, if we not the voice crack again, if we had cast Loops and Panini this season, oh, it would have
Oh
been,
gosh. Uh, what a season we would have had.
oh my god, maybe that's where we went wrong. Do
Yeah.
you think J-Ro makes a return?
I think
Or do you think he's
if J-Ro
quick?
stays like respectful and continues in the path that he's taking, I would love to see J-Ro come back again with a little self-reflection on how his game went wrong this season. I think he'd be an interesting and compelling character to come back.
Yeah.
And then obviously I want to see Huntress and Malik back. I think they have been the most level-headed and calm players so far to go out.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a couple pre-merge people that went that I would like to see get another chance, but also there's a bunch of pre-merge people that I never want to see again.
What about Uni?
Uni, I would like to see get another chance because we saw Uni go into the deep end of villainy. So we've had like distinct hero playing, distinct kind of like chaos messy villain playing. I think kind of honing into a middle ground of that would be interesting to see. I want to see Elk get a third chance as
Yes.
well.
Yes.
Elk's boot was just unfortunate. It was wrong place, wrong time. And I think with this season, if Elk got a little further, he would have made it really far because he's a voice of reason. And in the chaos of emotions, I think everyone would have went to Elk for support and like as a rock.
If he would have fucking messaged them back. We all know how
I know.
he's about that. He finds one person to text back, and that's the only person he talks to.
Yeah, and I don't even think he found one person until about an hour before Tribal, and everyone already had their votes locked because they didn't understand the concept of placeholder votes and locking votes. Oh,
That's why I love keeping that system, even though everyone hates it. It's because it makes the first vote so funny.
mhm.
I think I could be willing to give Curtis a second chance as well from pre-merge.
Yeah, Curtis was an interesting player. Kind of like J-Ro, but also J-Ro pulled all of this shit and Curtis got hit with the flack, which was very interesting and amusing.
Yeah. Curtis
And one of what?
Curtis was robbed.
Yes. And then I remember one of the first comments I read at the beginning of the season was, "Oh yeah, Curtis, he's a YouTuber or something, right?"
Yeah, oh yeah, he's like a famous YouTuber.
Mhm.
He's a Minecraft YouTuber. Or Roblox, one of them.
Yeah. Next season is going to be Battle of the Blocks, Minecraft versus Roblox players. It's a distinctly 13 and under season. Just pure toxicity and chaos.
Ew, I hate it so much. I hate it so much.
It's the way I could see that being an org in like the other side of the community.
Oh yeah.
That being like a theme.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Ew. I can see it.
I think I'm going to end with that because that's a terrifying thought for everyone to go off on. The idea of a 13 and under Minecraft versus Roblox org. I'm repulsing myself with the thought.
Real quick, Charlotte wants to know if we would
Oh
give
yeah.
Clara a second chance. Clara didn't do much.
No.
I wouldn't.
Clara was just unfortunately inactive.
Yeah, I would not like to see her again. I'm sorry. You can disagree, but she did not live up to expectations. I mean, maybe I shouldn't say this, but we cast her to get Huntress. Not that,
And
not that.
Huntress delivered.
Yes,
Mike for inactive All Stars, yes.
Mike.
Mike versus Ian.
It's so funny because Ian was like Ian kind of stepped up his game a little bit.
The amount of under the radars the early season had.
Not the Meredith second chance.
Oh,
It'll
no.
it'll literally be all of season 1 cast versus it'll all be all of season 1 versus just it'll be flops versus faves.
Yeah, we saw 6 players the first episode be under the radar. And of those 6 players, they all went out before the merge.
That's so.
They were of the first 9 boots. Because it was Mike, Clara, Ian, Meredith, Curtis, and Elk. Those were the under the radars, and they all went out back to back. And it sucks because Clara was under the radar, and then complex personality because we got something out of her, and it was like, there's something going on. We've got something. And then it was back to under the radar, and then Invis
Yeah.
for an episode. It was just an unfortunate game.
We already said that we would give Uni a third chance.
Oh yeah, Charlotte, she's in 15 fucking orgs. Yeah, oh, Uni just needs a season without greed. The temptation to just cause chaos and Uni is not a good combo. It's a self-destructive combo.
Us trying to end the podcast and Charlotte showing up and asking a million questions.
I know, but I love it.
No, it's okay, Charlotte. It's okay. It's okay.
No, I like the interaction at the end of these podcasts. It gives it some life.
Greed is a classic challenge. Like, I'm not saying that we're gonna have it every season, but I mean, it's gonna make its appearance again.
Oh yeah, Charlotte. The string of people going out OTTNN5
Oh God,
or just OTTN5.
that was in.
It was that was a
Because
moment.
it was Corday, then Meredith, then Ella.
Mhm. And two of them were terrible situations, and then Meredith's elimination is just so odd. Cuz she went from like didn't care about the org, barely there, to all of the sudden like extreme manipulation.
Like hardcore, like emotional, like not the kind of emotional manipulation that's like acceptable in orgs. Like emotional manipulation that's like not okay.
Yes, she did try to get in BC and try to sway people by crying. And it's just like, I don't know, I find it really amusing. It was a very entertaining scramble, but for everyone playing, it was probably just emotionally super draining.
That shit had to be so uncomfortable.
Exactly, too little, too late.
It was working on Union average though.
The two emotional people. And that's
Yeah.
she just unfortunately was not with the rest of the emotional players because imagine if like Court was on
Oh
that.
yeah.
Court probably would have fallen into it.
I mean, Court tried to save Elk.
Exactly.
that Meredith quote. This is, let me read the quote for everyone who's listening on YouTube. I'm joining VC, so if I have to, and I can get emotional and start crying so that they feel too guilty to vote me out. Iconic.
I wish we got more of that, Meredith. If Meredith played like that the whole season, this it would have been so entertaining.
Yes. I, even though it earned her an OTTNN, which is usually not okay. Yeah, it's just like she literally went from being um inactive to doing that to doing that. It was
Mhm.
like it was just such a dramatic shift. And Tatiana, don't even get me started on the leaky NB.
Yeah, that was the beginning of the end for Average's game in pre-merge. Was starting to tell people like, "Yeah, you're the vote. I don't want to vote you, but you're the vote." Tears, and then it just spreads like wildfire, and everyone's just like, "Average." Average is still here though.
But Average is still here as a goat.
Massive goat. Don't fuck with my stance. Absolutely not.
No,
Shoddy, no.
no.
After the jury and Pondy, how everything's gone with Shoddy, I Shoddy already said that once jury's over, he's leaving.
Oh, did he say that?
I believe so. I loved Shoddy pre-merge. Shoddy was a really fun, interesting character, but once merge came around, there was like a flip that switched, and I
Flip
just don't
that
think
switch.
yeah, a switch that flipped. There we go. In Shoddy's like perspective of the game, and the bitterness just came out, and it's not it.
Okay, see, I think I liked him pre-merge, but I also liked him at merge. I thought that his vote out was highly entertaining. Was it very dramatic? Yes, but I don't think that his vote out was toxic. Even him calling out all these people, I think it was very OTTN, but I don't think it was toxic. I think he was just being absolutely fucking dramatic. Where he started to get toxic was Ponderosa.
Mm-hmm. I think as Shoddy sat there, the worse it got. And with Archer not going to Ponderosa and immediately kind of just leaving the game, gave him even more time to fester. And then LaFleur didn't help in that. And then J-Ro coming in. So it was just like a week and a half of kind of just building and no one there to kind of be a voice of reason. So I think it was just too long. He sat there with no one to rebuttal.
Yeah. So it was like an explosion. But yeah, he after this behavior, he's not playing again. And on that note,
I think Charlotte already left.
yeah.
Our questions are gone. But I think that's been our podcast. It was a lot to cover because it's 2 weeks, but also got it done. And I'm excited to see the end of this game, especially this round. Final Four is going to be a super interesting end cap. It's going to be a pin in the season that everyone goes back to and thinks, or hopefully it's a pin that everyone goes back to and is like, that was a big moment.
What part?
Final Four,
Yeah.
this forced fire.
Yeah. I don't think that the Castaways are going to like it. I think they're going to yell at us, but what haven't they yelled at us about? So
Exactly. We've been yelled at a lot by the Castaways. But yeah, I'm excited. I've said that every single podcast and I've been let down every single time. I hope I'm not let down this time.
We'll see.
But I genuinely like the Final Four. I genuinely liked the Final Six. They were all players that I could get behind, and they're still all players I can get behind. So fingers crossed.
I think it's going to be an interesting end to the game no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
Unless it's average versus like Rose, then it'll be boring. But
It'll be an easy win for Rose, but well, yeah. Thanks everyone who's listened live and on YouTube to the ramblings of 5 episodes worth of content and our Ponderosa issues. But yeah, thank you for listening. Bye.